Okay, there we go. We're all set. Madam Chair.
All right, I will open this meeting for the Maynard Planning Board. The date is January 21st, 2025. And the time is 7:04 PM. This meeting is being held in hybrid format, which means that members of the public, the board, or the applicant can participate here in town hall or virtually using the Zoom link that is provided on the agenda. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Let's say who's here tonight. Can I just say who's here? Chris.
Present.
Jeff Black,
Here.
Bill Crenshaw,
Here.
and I, Natalie Robert, and here, our chair will be joining us in a bit. Yeah. All right, I don't have the agenda in front of me.
Right here, first of the minutes, do you see this?
Sure, all right, so first, let's look at minutes from December 10th, 2024.
Got two comments on those minutes.
All right,
The bold line for 1416 Hillside,
Yeah.
just put the word public hearing before that.
Where is that, Bill? I don't know.
First page,
Right,
1416 Hillside,
right.
just add the words public hearing before it in the title,
Oh, okay.
like we did for Toll Bank Bank.
Okay.
And then page 3, the ADU discussion.
ooh,
It says the state attorney general has commented on the town's ADU proposal.
Mhm.
It will be presented at the Springtown meeting. They've commented on the town's ADU bylaw. And then the required changes will be presented at the Springtown meeting.
That is correct. Okay.
all right, does anyone have anything else?
Others present
Yep,
by Justin Janowski.
okay, just Justin Chinesky,
Justin Janowski. Straight by,
good catch.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from December 10th, 2024 with the changes referenced tonight. Do I have a second?
Second,
All those in favor, Bill,
Yes.
Chris,
yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Next up, December 17th, 2024.
Just the top, I have graduated from alternate.
Oh,
Got my name right though.
right, alternate from the
the-
members present.
Wow. You were full-time at then anyway? Yeah, sure.
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
It was full time on the 10th.
that's right.
You demoted him.
Well, I spelled his name right.
That's a big
Yeah,
fact.
one or the other.
Next week, you spell Chris with a K.
Which Chris?
Right, good. That's right.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from December 17th, 2024 with the one change referenced tonight. Do I have a second?
Second,
All right, Bill,
Yes.
Chris,
yes.
Jeff,
I was not there.
Okay.
You can chime in if
Sure.
you want.
He can sign them or 3 vote works either way.
you can abstain if you'd like,
I'll say yes.
Okay. and I'm a yes.
Okay.
Great.
Exactly.
Is the video on, Bill?
Okay. Let me go ahead with the planner update, because this is kind of what I want to talk to you guys
Yeah,
about.
zoom on, cause is it not sharing or what's going on? I don't know.
Awesome.
It's on, okay, you just weren't scared sharing your screen.
No, I'm gonna share it now. I'll share it. There's there's nobody on here.
Oh, great.
Oh, wait, there is.
Oh,
Lily.
Lily.
I gotta let Lily.
Okay,
All right, you wanna do the planner update?
yeah.
Great.
I had a chance to talk, well, to Chris about most of this stuff earlier, so, um. The first thing I wanted to, briefly just go over is, was, timing for a couple of, initiatives that we were gonna try to go over the next couple of years. I'll tell you what Chris had said regarding them, and then I also wanna go over, the, proposed bylaw amendments, which I had referred to you guys last week, which you have in front of you. But let me start with, the, master housing production plan, you guys, I think, I'm not sure who was there in the last one. I think it might have been, you're on that, like, notes? Okay, so, there's a, oh, you got it. That's the one before. We're, by having a housing production plan, which is kind of a, it's consistent with the master plan, but it's a standalone document. We have to have it renewed every 5 years. In order as part of our safe harbor. Eligibility through the state. We adopted our first housing production plan in 2016. We just did a second update, it seems like we just did it, it was done in 2020. So we're gonna need one in 2026. So this board, is gonna be tasked with overseeing it. And here, I have a couple questions for you. First of all, I wrote a grant again to try to get technical assistance. We've been successful every other time with these grants, getting technical assistance. And, I'm hopeful we get a grant to help us this time. So we need a plan either way. So here's the thing. It's a very useful tool also for us because it kind of gives us a snapshot of our demographics and needs and so on. So that's why you want to have it done with a consultant or somebody who has the ability to do this sort of calculations. From there, we kind of make our housing goals, and to give you give you guys examples of what we did on our original housing production plan, which we did in 2016. That was where inclusionary zoning came from. And we got that in. That was where we got, what else did we do in that bill? We did, I think we started with, we're gonna look at ADUs, I think. We got, some density bonus, calculations for, a couple of different, DoD scenarios. We talked about the need to have housing that really, a variety of housing that was suitable for demographics that we have. So I like to call it like housing for a lifetime, so you don't have to leave Maynard type kind of thing. But we did achieve a lot of it in the last two, mostly thanks to this board. So with the new plan, in the past, what we did is we put together a committee. Now, I'm over committees, but it's kind of nice to have an independent committee do it too, you know, in that sense. The alternative to doing it with committee, I was thinking, and this is what I wanted to talk to you guys just to consider, so we don't need an answer tonight. But maybe, depending on our workload, maybe it's something we said, okay, we're gonna do housing production plan meetings every other planning board for, you know, summer or whatever it was. And we opened it up and got the public input here, where we're not, and then we save ourselves quite a step from transferring the information from the committee to the planning board and so on. Whereas if we, and the public could have input all during these hearings, just a thought I had. So I let you chew on that for a while, but in any event, I want to have it adopted by 2026. That gives us plenty of time.
Was the last committee outside the planning board or was it? Okay,
Yeah, and it was a good, really good committee. But it was hard and everybody's like, we're like, can you meet? And it was hurting they met probably in person, probably 4 or 5 times.
plus the consultants also,
They herded the cats.
yeah, right,
And I think, another way to do it and get public input was say, hey, this is tonight, we're talking about planning board, everybody who wants to talk about the housing production plan.
yeah,
And we could advertise it in the same way we advertise, housing production meetings, like we did anyway. So it's just something to think about. And again, it depends on our workload, but I think like having an hour each planning board meeting, we say, hey, we take it in, and we go over, it's divided into, sections, kind of like not like a master plan necessarily, but sections where you would talk about them independently. So for example, one, we might talk about, okay, probably we'd start off with the progress we made in the last one. Okay, all right, here's what we did, then we talk about demographics and it may be the changes that we've experienced, in the last 5 years or whatever, and so on and it ends with recommendations and goals, just like we have in a master plan. So we don't need an answer tonight, but think about that. But that to me is our top priority because of the, from what we got facing now, just because we needed to we want to maintain our safe harbor.
How is it adopted?
It is adopted in a joint meeting with the planning board and the select board. Now, we don't always, like last year, we kind of had, or last session, I should say, or last time. It wasn't like a whole meeting, it was like the planning board came in. I think we might have even done it virtually to the select board meeting. And it doesn't matter, but we were there, so it is a joint adaptation, so they definitely want to have them, the select board, aware of it ahead of time and working with it, which is what we did last time. We had a select board rep last time
on the.
on the committee. I don't remember who it was.
Who was it? Well,
I can't remember.
I think as long as you don't have too many things in front of us. Doing that every other meeting for the summer sounds great.
Might be a good one. The committees are just tougher and tougher because we're getting, it's hard to get people, I
Well, the
mean,
other thing is, we could proactively. Reach out to other relevant committees and tell them
yeah,
when to come.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's true too, yeah. So like we made sure we had somebody from FinCom. We had somebody from, the Housing Trust, we had somebody from, I don't know if we had zoning board, but it was a cross section, but it was,
Yeah, I do kind of agree with you. I think it would be easier if we ran it and, we tell FinCom, you can come in this night, think about it ahead of time, and bring us your issues and concerns. Let them do whatever they want and they have their chance to chime in. And if they want to stick around and help, cool.
yeah.
If they just want to go away after that, that's okay too.
So. That's my thought on the housing production plan, but I would consider it a very high priority because of the.
We need a date on it, end of calendar 26.
I'm not sure if it check. It expires, I think it expires 2026. I gotta look at it, I think it expires 2026.
But like January 2nd.
Yeah, oh yeah, that would. It could be, oh. There he is. And so,
One other thing, I think, maybe before we finalize the strategy of approach, it wouldn't hurt if we. Ourselves in one of our meetings took a look at scorecarding our progress.
Okay.
And then we can understand,
that's a good idea,
perhaps how big or little the deal is gonna go.
that's a good idea, why don't we plan on doing that when we have cause we'll have some, after, we're gonna have a little open time with, in between. HPP. This. It's been, I didn't really, was surprised how much I use that.
Me
And,
too,
and it's well done,
it's a
and,
good one.
and it's reference, it's easy to reference. You know, and it provides. It provides a little more, it drills down further than the master plan, but it also provides a rationale for decision making for other groups. You know, to look at. So that's it, and Chris is, I went over this with Chris already, so, and I'll find out when exactly expired, but. And then we can decide, Chris, basically, the gist is, when we start the HPP, Housing Production Plan, do we wanna try to form another committee, or do we wanna have a series of hearings here with people in here? Was the question.
Have we talked about that?
We just,
That's what,
The way we come?
Yeah.
What did we decide?
that
probably not a committee.
we like the idea of having it just here if we have a light enough schedule otherwise. And inviting people in other committees if they wanna come and talk about it.
Agreed.
Great.
And that would be, I think, here efficient, because theoretically, we could be making the changes as they happen. You know, and that night, so somebody, if we decide, okay, we make these changes here to the bylaws, so this is what we're proposing, we could do that and then have the,
Full of any chair.
there's.
One of the black ones.
Here, Glenn, here, Glenn. There's a chair, okay. So, we're gonna be on the screen tonight, so we're kind of.
Okay.
Things around. So, yeah, that would be good, and, we'll see how we do with the grant first.
Are we gonna get the grant?
Oh, he says we usually do.
I think, I don't know why we wouldn't, but. I mean, I think so. And I've got a backup plan too. And, so a backup grant that I'm gonna write. All right, the second thing, so the housing production plan, anyway, that's, I thought, and I think, you guys understand why that was a top priority for the year. Master plan. The, Chris and Jeff, I don't know if, you're aware of this, but the planning board owns the master plan. So it's. We can adopt it or update it as we wish. In terms of, the process, there's not a defined process outside of the planning board. We have, though, taken it in the past, we presented it to the town meeting. And we got kind of a symbolic vote, I guess, which is probably good practice, but this is ours. So it was adopted, in 2000. That means, you know,
2020.
yeah, what did I say?
You said 2000.
I know what you meant.
2020.
2020, I had trouble getting it out, you cut me off. It was 2020,
I think of the one before.
yeah. Yeah, and, so it was adopted in 2020. Typically, the master plan, they begin to look at updates 7 to 10 years. And if you look at our master plan, much like the housing production plan, we checked a lot of boxes already, a lot of them. I mean, really enough to make everybody should be proud of it, because when you look at it, it's like, oh, wow, we did that, we did that, we did that. And, again, this group, you know, drove that, and so in my opinion, it will be in need of new goals and objectives sooner rather than later. Because to reflect, particularly with the powder mill, you know, adopting the overlays, we didn't, you know, it was done before MBTA communities, which we're already set with. But there's other initiatives that we probably want to work on. The master plan is divided into chapters, as you know, with elements. We will have to, talk about if we wanna try to do it ourselves or obtain a grant. VHP did the last one, they did a tremendous job. It was expensive. But it's possible there could be some grants out there as well too. My suggestion was, I suggested to Chris that we look to do this in 2027. And that's probably gonna take us a year update. And, and that we definitely will need the other committees and that, and we'll give them, I would call it text, a text box type forms, which we created to fill out, so we don't get, War and Peace from one group and get a haiku from the other group, we want to make sure that we have just a general, okay, this is what we want to update. Goal here doesn't mean this, goal here does. It doesn't, it's not relevant anymore, we'll
This
strike
is
that.
within our list, the list of,
Well, it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
So for example, if we said, like something, a new initiative that we wanted to start, let's say with something, we could, that it might fit perfectly in the natural resources, category, nobody's considered it.
Right.
We may want to build on, but there's a lot of ways to go, but I'm suggesting we push it to 2027. Because the housing production plan is gonna be plenty. And we'll get data from that that'll influence it anyway. The last update I have is the memo that you have here. These are all. The memo that you should have there from me to Greg Johnson. I'll give you a copy of this. This, I brought this to the planning, to the zoning select board a couple of weeks ago. And these are what I'm calling our cleanup, amendments there. They did not include the powder mill, which we're gonna go over next. So whatever we come up with, I wanna have referred. If we're gonna do it, powder mill, we wanna get that added. But right now, these are all advertised and will be heard by us on our first meeting in February. Okay, Bill had a good point, I'm gonna check on tomorrow already with these, but I thought it would be helpful, I numbered them all, lettered and numbered them, as you see, and I gave you a summary in the table. In the back are the actual exhibits, if you wanna see the whole kit and caboodle. I don't think there's anything here that really we haven't heard about. Most of it's pretty dull for our stuff. The mixed use definition we added, which we didn't have, so we have that. And we put for the first time, illustrations in, which I think are really cool. And, in this case, it was for setbacks and yard, setbacks, to sort of give you a, or I give the reader a little more clarity in it. So these are not being heard tonight. They're advertised that we're gonna hear them on our first meeting in February. But but they have been formally referred to the planning board, and that's why I gave you this document. But I mean, you can read it, you can see basically what it is. Any general questions about the amendments that I'm proposing?
Ask about B1.
Yeah,
Construction business exclude like outdoor storage of construction materials.
well, that's a good question. Okay, if you look at it, the biggest thing. The outside storage of material is regulated already. Okay, so there's requirements for screening and so on that would that would stay in place. So that would, we could amend them, but they're not being proposed. But the screening that we have now would stay in place. Like right now, you couldn't put certain materials outside unscreened, you couldn't store, depending on the zones and stuff that they're in. But what really concerned me originally, and I threw it in here, was, well, if it's a construction business, like our new builder on Powder Mill Road, I can't think of the whatever the guy from Powder Mill, I'm sorry, Powder Mill Road moved into the mill. What the heck was the name of this place?
Panthers.
JD, yeah, but anyway, whatever the construction company was, what about the storage of vehicles? So all of a sudden we get a bunch of construction vehicles, well, that's a problem. Or maybe, but it's something we wanna look at individually. So what I put, what I added in here was that there's gonna be no, the construction business is not. In itself is not exempt from the requirements that we already have in place for overnight outdoor parking. So if somebody came in and wanted to open a construction business, which theoretically should just be an office,
Mhm.
okay, and they wanna put a dump truck outside or 4 or 5 dump trucks, then they're gonna have to get a special permit for the overnight storage.
Right.
But the business itself, do we care any different? And I didn't see anything that,
How does this relate to our trade shops?
we we redefined trade shops. In the last,
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, and trade shop is basically like, the one that comes to mind is an electrician or a plumber.
Okay.
Or something like that, that was,
As opposed to this, which is like,
office uses more.
yeah, construction management, so it's not,
Yeah,
not anyone who has hammers and nails, it's more like,
right, I mean, that would be,
General contracting doesn't have cameras.
well, you know what I'm saying? They don't have a fleet of construction trucks maybe, but maybe.
well, they can't. They can't have the overnight, yeah, I mean, if they have a fleet, they're gonna have to either get a special permit or be in the areas where they can do it.
So I have a similar concern with the original comment of, I don't wanna see any outdoor storage abutting the river.
Mhm. You don't,
I don't.
Mhm.
If it's just an office, fine.
Yeah.
But abutting the river, no outdoor service, storage related to these construction business uses, but for the hearings, is it even possible for that change to be made, or?
Sure. Tighten it up, yeah. I think so,
Okay, that would make it more restrictive
yeah.
in the hearing than advertised.
Well, no, it wouldn't, you're right. Because right now we're saying it's gonna be by right in these areas, and we just defined it.
What is the overnight parking?
Well, overnight parking's in,
I know, but I'm saying, is that, if that applies anyway, what's that situation in, for example, the river, what are you concerned about?
Oh, I'm just talking about the storage, not the parking.
Oh. Right,
I'm talking materials.
yeah, you're talking about like pile of lumber.
right, okay.
Right.
Standard.
Let's see what I have here, and that's a good point.
But I'm just saying, I'm not sure what we're talking about here, whether we can change anything before advertised or what.
Yeah, but we would, but I would say that if we wanna do that, and I don't disagree with you. If we wanted to do that, we do that in a separate amendment, because we don't wanna just apply to construction business. What if it's a trade shop? Same thing, right? So we would wanna do a screening. I'll take a look at that. But I would say that would be a separate one. I wouldn't,
I'm saying, but I'm using that as something I want, but something as an example of, we have all these things.
mhm,
Is wording this or nothing?
no. If you wanted to change it and tighten it up, and if it's, we do it, and if it's advertised and it's not advertised to the level that we feel that it's appeal proof, we're gonna be advertising other stuff, we just throw it in another advertisement, that's all.
Okay. Some of it
But
might-
you see my point, what I'm saying about the screening?
Yes, but I'm just bringing out the general point of, yes, during the hearing, I decide to make it more restrictive.
Yeah,
You probably have to then re-advertise and do a hearing on it again.
I think if it would depend on what we're writing, in this case. Let's, maybe that's the hard, or a tougher example, I would wanna make sure, and I'd make sure it was done, but most cases, if you tighten things up and it's more restrictive than what was advertised, you're okay. But if you're going the other way and you're, with some cases, tightening it up can be viewed as more intensifying use.
When's this hearing? When's the hearing?
Well, that's first meeting in February.
Alright, it's already been advertised?
Yeah, I could change it probably.
No, I mean, fine, it sounds like if we have. to-
11th.
It sounds like, you know, everything's already happened, so if there's gonna be a change that. It might result in a need for a rehearing, but.
And if it does, we do.
We'll deal with that when we get there.
Yeah, we just, I mean, you know, if it does, we're gonna have something else advertised at one point probably. We'll throw it on with that or we'll make sure it's done. But, and we'll look, that's a good question about the screening, because the screening we did on,
I'm not concerned about screening along the river. I'm concerned about infiltration.
well, activity on the river, I think that's all conscom. Well, that's a, I thought you said you didn't want it from view, but you just wanted,
Yeah, I just don't want freaking construction materials along the river. I don't want us to allow it and then conscom doesn't disallow it. It's like, let's
Okay.
all get on the same page. You know, that's just me.
well, no, I think that's a good, it's a good idea. I'm just saying that if we did it, we'll come up with something that works and we pop it in. If it's not there already, or if it's not gonna be covered, yeah, I think it's a good point.
How's the general comment on? Change in the definition of mixed use?
Yeah.
On the first page, the summary of the amendment,
Mm-hmm.
says to amend the definition to better reflect DOD intent. But that definition is used elsewhere beyond the DOD.
Yeah,
It certainly will be in the PMOD. So
yeah.
I'm a little concerned that the definition might be DOD.
Yeah. Oh, well, let's look at the definition. The definition was taken from. Why do we put the DOD in there?
That's what most mixed use have.
Oh, I know why. Because currently. Because currently. Mixed use is only allowed in the DRD. And we're amending the PMOD to allow it in there. So. But that was not the intent, and Rick, wait, let me see if I did this, but I hear you, in the actual. In the text, and this we went over and over with the building commissioner. In the end. The definition is descriptive of a parcel that has been zoned to permit residential use. Paired with a non-residential use, or descriptive of a building that pairs residential use with non-residential use. It was meant to be very flexible, and I don't think that at all makes it exclusive to the DOD. My summary, I probably shouldn't have put that in there, you're right. I think, but I wouldn't be sidetracked by the summary if you don't think.
And then it says use. What's the implication that primary uses?
As I didn't hear what you said, I guess
It says
sneezing.
use. The assumption is it's primary use, so it's not accessory use like the home business. So we gotta define a single family with a home business as mixed use. I don't think that's the intent, I just don't want that to happen. So I assume the word use here is referencing primary use and not accessory use, but I don't know that for certain.
I don't know how you could have it mixed use as accessory use.
You shouldn't, but
Yeah,
if we do the definition incorrectly, then we could create it. That's not my concern.
well,
Maybe the lawyers are like, oh,
yeah, let's look at that one. I see your point.
it's the one unintended consequence.
And we could throw primary in there if we think it makes sense. In the hearing.
That work.
Descriptive of a parcel that has been zoned. Well, wait a minute. If we did a parcel that has a mix of uses on it, right? And it's saying description of a parcel that has been zoned to permit residential uses paired with non-residential.
I'm thinking you just need an extra sentence there to say, does, this references primary, not accessory, or something, I don't. Also, don't know what the word paired means. But okay.
Alright,
We get in that kind of area.
I have a question about D1. The beautiful. Beautiful illustration,
mhm,
which I think is great.
mhm.
Is there any benefits to not? Are these lists of yard requirements, front and side and everything, that's still in the table somewhere? Yes,
I'm sorry. You mean, is it,
the measurements on this 25-foot
right,
front, 15-foot side, et cetera, that's still in the table somewhere, right?
that's right.
Is there any benefit to taking the measurements off of this so that if we change the measurements in the future, we don't have to also change this image?
In my opinion, I wouldn't. I think that I think that, and it's based on experience of Rick and myself. And probably a few other unfortunates. People don't read this stuff.
That's fine, I just
Yeah.
wanted to ask because of the, if it's clearer this way, then that's great.
I think it's pretty good, and I think it would be more beneficial. Like explaining two front setbacks,
Yep,
you'd be surprised how long that takes.
No, this is excellent for that.
yeah,
And
no, I meant more like put in X for the sides and X could reference whatever is the like.
yeah,
kind of thing, but
I think if we change it and it's just a file, we just change it.
yeah, it's fine.
Um,
Plus that doesn't change very often anyway.
No,
One other thing to think about is. Referencing ADUs.
Yeah, I was curious about it, accessory structure
That's where you
would
go.
include accessory dwelling unit.
In this case, it would not. Because our accessory dwelling units have to do the setbacks of the primary building.
yeah,
So it might just be another footnote or something, but
It's the same word.
yeah, unfortunately.
Right.
Accessory structure meaning shed.
But you can't drop
People
an
are
ADU
gonna-
5 feet from your rear fence.
Accessory structure meaning shed, when we also have an accessory dwelling unit bylaw.
That's right.
A little.
And-
Maybe just have something that says accessory structure exclusive of ADU.
So,
Non-occupiable accessory structure.
I'm in it hot, Chris, I love it.
I have a question on that one too. The footnotes, is accessory buildings will not cover more than 30% of rear yard area. Of the. with my experience. You take the side yard, for example, like you see how the rear setback line. Goes over the side yard setback line. Like the.
Double counting the corners.
does the rear yard extend to the side yard?
I always thought you sort of have an envelope of setbacks. It's not like your rear setback is the rear touch your side lot.
Or does it include this?
No, it
This is
doesn't.
actually side. It's also
Like that would be.
where is this, Jeff?
It doesn't include this stuff.
Well, this is, I was reading the footnote where it said accessory buildings may not cover more than 30% of the rear yard area. Maybe rear yard area is defined.
Well, it can't, if the accessory structure,
It's not defined, is it? What it?
It's not illustrated.
Rear yard area is not defined.
Does it, yeah, does it include or exclude the 15-foot sides?
Yeah, and I think it should exclude it.
the accessory structure is. Has
In this case.
to.
Me-
Fall within setbacks.
Yeah, it has to
No,
be,
no, but what's the area being calculated for the 30%?
Oh, you're saying if it's 30%, does it go all the way to the property line?
Yeah, I think it's just the graph, like where.
You should just have that installed in the figure. Just say- just
Yeah,
say
I mean,
that.
I'll mark it.
yeah, you can shade, I mean, you can shade one of those house lots. You move the title and then you can shade it and call it out. So this is rear yard.
I mean, it's nice when everything's square, but a lot of stuff's not square.
Well, that's an interesting point, you know. Front yard definition goes property to property, right?
let's see.
We have a lot of, you can do this or that, but front yard.
Do you have any, you can only have an inflatable holiday decoration?
More than 30% of your
Yeah,
front
exactly.
yard.
As long as it's not occupiable.
Oh, come on, let's be realistic, it's 75%.
Oh, well, that's murder.
Have you seen those dragons?
Corner one.
They're
They
on
can have
here.
twice as many.
Yeah, they're on here. They have
Two
two
front
corner
yards.
lots are on there, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They luck out.
Cause the,
And no backyard, so therefore. Accessory buildings may not cover more than 30% of rear yard area. So in the case of a corner lot, that means either side.
We don't know.
Well, there is no rear, so it's not.
But they just can't
No,
have
there's
shed.
no, oh,
You
yeah,
can't have one?
so you can't have,
well, in a corner setback, on a corner lot,
yes,
okay,
there's no rear.
that's correct. There's side.
So this says accessory buildings may not
So you
cover
can have
more
a
than
really
30%
big accessory
of
structure.
rear yard area.
Go for it.
Is there a limitation?
Where'd you
on
say
it?
this?
No limitation on side yard,
Well, that's right, that's the thing. Can you not have one, or is there no?
there's no limit.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, we are just focusing on the yard dimensions, so there may actually be some other language
Yeah,
that limits these
yeah.
things. But we are venturing into,
Yeah.
the hearing discussion.
Right, yeah, we want to just kind of keep it general.
Sheds can only be a certain number of square feet anyway. But that might be over 30%.
It's like, you know, like a oil rig.
Oh. Another accessory
I
structure,
want cell phone
non-dwelling
tower.
structure.
Big pantry. You're back there.
Any other questions on that? We have? Oh, bicycle parking is a new one.
Oh, yeah, bicycle parking, we'll be getting an illustration.
Okay.
You will be. You're gonna.
Oh, is that-
You're gonna buy one.
Mhm.
But that won't be for zoning. Because the zoning references details in our.
That'll be on our, yeah, rules and regs.
So the pictures will be in our plan.
Oh, that, right, that's.
Yeah. Yeah, that's better. We do it in our rules and regs like that. We can, and then we can just adopt them ourselves. That the rules and regs, just for our audiences, as opposed, are not zoning bylaws. And zoning bylaws have to go through town meeting. This is zoning bylaws, but the planning board has rules and regulations which are used to further implement the zoning bylaws, and they are adopted by these guys at a meeting. That's all. So.
Right.
Anything else for these? We get in the main event here?
No, I think they look great.
Nice job.
Nice job, Bill and Zoe.
Yeah, it's always been valuable. One, if you want to copy this, it's on the agenda, but you can always get it also from the select board,
Okay, so went to the select board.
yeah, I can send it to you if you want. Or I can make a copy of that in a second.
No, I'll dig it up. I'll put it down.
Yeah, These are not very exciting. What we're gonna do next is exciting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's this called, this document?
Oh, is this all one?
Here, you wanna keep
These,
some more?
well, these are just called, I call these cleanups. They're just
Yeah.
little tweaks that every time. We always have to tweak something, and bylaws are pretty much tweaked every town meeting. Something.
So you're saying it's attached to this agenda online, or looking this like, what?
I think it is. It's on the select board, if not, that's the new one, Bill?
So the handout to us.
No, but is that the new O2 version that you did, that you sent me?
Nobody has a printed copy of that,
Do you want me to print them out?
just for guiding the discussion.
Oh, before I close up on the others, on. These are some,
No, it's yours.
one other, little bit. Before, I'm going to do another round of cleanup amendments, try to get them in. I'm gonna just give you a general idea what it is real quick. We have a provision in our, affordable. Our, inclusionary zoning bylaw that. Allows an applicant to provide an affordable unit at 60% AMI. And we count them as 1.5 each. And therefore, ultimately, you may have a reduction in your obligation of number of units if you provide them at 60%. So Bill and I discussed this, and we're not having enough success with 60% AMIs, and I think we pretty much all agree with that. So we thought it would be a good idea to allow a developer to count them as 2 units rather than 1. So if you're obligated to provide 2 units, you could reduce that obligation by making 60% unit. I don't know why we picked 1.2 at a time, but we must have had a reason, but we haven't gotten any 60%, or I think we only have 1. So that's 1. Canopies for parking facilities, okay.
Solar canopies?
Hmm?
Solar?
So the question came up recently about canopies. And in this case, it was for solar, like we did with the high school, remember? Okay, so canopy being open, no sides or anything like that. They are subject to setbacks. Right now, under our bylaws as an accessory structure. Okay. And in some cases, it could, work against adding solar and additional covers. So what and I haven't had a chance to discuss this with Chris either. But this was just with Rick and me talking today, and I thought I'd just run this by you. We're proposing a design requirement that says, canopies for parking facilities are exempt from setback requirements. You know, like that?
I don't like that.
Oh, God, no.
They're hugely tall.
Yeah,
They slope onto the adjacent property.
Mhm. Well, no, it'd have to be,
They often do.
yeah, well, that's okay. So you don't like that one right now as it is? We don't need to do it now.
No, I don't like it.
You wanna work on it some more then?
What's the story behind this?
Mill, the mill couldn't put, can't put solar canopies on any of the lot at, on Main Street except for the middle 2.
That's different than, because when you first described it, I was thinking residential properties.
No, this was just for parking facilities, parking lots.
Oh,
So we haven't had a chance to talk, so
That's what we want.
you're not gonna hurt my feelings. If you want, if you just say, hold it, we'll hold it and work on it. I don't care.
They're big.
Huh?
They are big.
Well, think about what we did at the school, like that.
Oh, so you're saying the farmer's market parking lot,
Yeah,
they couldn't just drop in solar canopies on any part except those two middle lanes because of the pond and because of the street.
that's an example of one that
Yeah.
came in. That's what started the conversation.
They got like 800 more acres to drop.
They can.
solar.
Yeah.
Do you, and like I said, if you want, I haven't done this is just to run by you tonight, so if you wanna,
I don't like it that,
let's work on it some more, then okay, I'll shelve this for now.
well, I understand why, but I think that's too broad.
Now, I am definitely an advocate of solar canopies replacing interior landscaping requirements.
Well, I think that might be
I wouldn't
an,
want to hold them to a 10% interior landscaping if they're gonna use solar.
that might be a different, yeah, that would be a different one. So this one you, okay, you guys want, and then the last one I had, okay. You remember, because I mentioned that the zoning bylaws currently in our use table assign responsibility for some oddball stuff to the zoning board and vice versa to the planning board. Stuff that would not normally be in your wheelhouse. So that's, the most recent example was I had a outdoor commercial automobile storage. And it went before the zoning board, who doesn't normally deal with this sort of thing. Okay, so it was, they were kind of like a little bit perplexed about what to do and about the nuances of the downtown overlay district. I had to haul a couple of you in to help me there. I think Chris came and stuff, so. I sat down with the zoning board chair. And I'm going to give Chris, because Chris hasn't seen this. A list of the uses that the zoning board would appreciate us taking on. As being a special permit, and I can read them to you, but I'll give them to you, to take, Chris, so you can look at it.
Do we get a raise?
Say again?
Do we get a raise?
Yeah, you should, but wait, but we're giving them some stuff too.
Oh,
And so, okay.
We give a DOD?
No.
I'll take anything.
Healthcare, elderly housing and assisted living residences. I think this board should hear that, and so did they. Nursing and convalescent homes. Same. I don't understand this one. I can't explain it. Don't ask me to, please. Cemetery. Gets brighter,
A special permit for cemetery?
yeah.
In residential, oh, in business too. Oh, everywhere.
We have a lot of space to put new cemeteries in.
But you could have a private cemetery.
Now, there's a similar theme running through these, I realize. Next is funeral home. So-
That's totally theirs.
No, that's ours. They want us to give us to have it.
You're right back.
Hmm?
Historically, they've been integrated into residential,
I know.
so they get to keep it. I don't want to mess with neighborhood issues, neighborhood fights.
Okay, well, you guys can talk about it and I'm not gonna advertise this till I hear back from you, okay? But, and the last is theater, halls, clubs, or places of entertainment.
Oh, I want that. I'll say yes.
They had, cause they did like, if you guys don't notice,
Oh, sorry. I don't want this.
What are we trading? What do we get rid of?
Yeah, what are we getting rid of?
Remember, everything is green.
actually, we're not getting rid of any,
Oh,
on this one.
that.
no.
What seasonal and charitable sales?
We'll talk, yeah,
I'm actually a little curious, which is the least onerous process for the person applying?
it depends on the type of process, this truck
Is
thing,
there a money difference or anything?
nah, not really. No, no, same that we got, that's the thing, I had to get peer review in for a couple of zoning board things, which I don't usually deal with, like with an engineer.
So I think it's appropriate for us to take on things that have site plan, sort of, site plan reviews on. I think that makes more sense.
Well, let's take a look at these, because these aren't done yet.
Bill's right, like, if we're talking about setbacks, it's not what we do.
Yeah.
We're good with site plan review.
Well,
right?
look
So
at,
like, I hear healthcare elderly housing facility,
yeah,
and I'm thinking there's site plan sort of stuff to review there. ADA compliance, access, parking.
Yeah.
Travel, vehicle logistics, sidewalk stuff,
Hmm.
That's true for cemeteries too,
right? Sure,
and a funeral home,
well, maybe, yeah, I hear what you're saying,
that's a lot of traffic,
sure.
dancing ladies.
From
a lot.
a business standpoint, I'm thinking just the site itself, you know. I don't know. That was my first thought.
I don't want anything that's likely to have residential on both sides.
Well, that's a good point, and you may be absolutely right with that, with, funeral home. If you say it like that, I mean,
We should also look through and see which ones we should get back to the zoning board.
okay. We were planning on,
We can give them ADUs. Oh, they're all right now. Oh, yeah. We helped them with that. That's right.
Before no one did it.
What I'm not saying on this list, Bill, is, vehicle storage facility,
yeah, that's on,
which was the one that they struggled with at the gas station.
But it wasn't a facility, it was an accessory use of large commercial vehicles.
yeah, right, they wanted that.
That was the one they struggled with.
Yeah, but well, it is, it's a weird, and they thought because, and they used we have another commercial vehicle. Kerfluffle. On 27, where we have a vehicle being stored. Or a number of vehicles being stored. In a business area. Business owned. But it's adjacent to residential. So we had, at the time, when we had a hearing, the argument was. Well, wait a minute, this isn't supposed to be here, this is a residential area, and our zoning map says, no, it's not a residential area. So the zoning board, required, I can't remember what the number was, but you can have so. Yeah, they did limit, because they still have the authority even in the business zoning district, but it was difficult, because then and if you. Deprive the business owner in the business district of right to use the property, you don't wanna invite. Litigation where it may be, something that you don't really have the legal ground to stand on, you may. And being sensitive to the surrounding abutters is tough, but you also have the old, if, who was there first, and you go back to the chicken farm argument. You can imagine that one.
Just put up some solar awnings, it'll block everything.
There you go. So, okay, so what I'm hearing now, board, is from these, for the time being, we'll throw all these on,
Can we give them wireless telecommunication?
Oh,
Telecommunication
yeah.
towers?
what's that?
Can they do the wireless telecommunication towers?
Those are horrendously boring, give them those.
Yeah, there are other criteria. We don't want the boring.
It seems like setback stuff, I don't know, like,
Yeah.
I don't have much to offer.
Yeah, they come to us and we're like,
Anyway, think about it, I'm not saying it has to
All
happen,
right, so, yeah. There may be state law that makes it
maybe.
our problem.
No funeral homes, no cemeteries, huh?
But if we could give them drive-throughs,
oh,
I'll take anything.
they'll never see us.
I don't think, I'm thinking we don't want them in, and they don't wanna be in the commercial areas, is kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, I kind of agree. That makes sense to me. But, except telecommunication towers.
Well, those are everywhere.
Right, yeah. A lot of times we'll be in residential.
Yeah, I don't want.
I did have,
Well,
Not in Concord.
I did have another one, here, go here.
Where are they in Concord?
They're not having telecommunications
Oh.
towers in Concord.
Well, that's a whole different ballgame.
I don't, that's different.
Yeah.
Municipal stuff's pretty boring.
Well, that too, no, but there's a citing act about that. You can't restrict. That telecommunications act, you can't.
I'm fine with that. they come to us and they're like, we need to renew our thing. And I'm
Oh,
like, okay.
Zoe's digging up some stuff. We're gonna have a lot of them coming in. All five of them, max. Yes, that's
After you.
okay.
Yeah, transfer it to zoning first and then.
All right, I'm gonna shelve, for now, I'm gonna shelve the. We're gonna leave the inclusionary zoning, right, going to 2. Nobody has any heartache with that. If, maybe we won't even bring that one forward this time, because Phil and I were talking about
Bring it forward for a hearing, if we can.
the inclusionary zoning.
Yeah,
Well, here's the problem. The problem is sitting there at the end of the table. On there. And he brought up a good point, a bit too cynical for my taste, but we're gonna, no.
No, it's something else.
No, he's gonna buy me breakfast and we're gonna go talk about it one day, we'll figure it out. But we're not ready yet. I think we can come up with something better.
I think that the housing production plan will point us to a bigger
Yes,
picture. With less than 60% AMI, which our old housing production plan said we also needed. We need 40%, we need 20%.
well, you're not gonna, you know what I think about
I
that.
know,
What's the acronym?
area median income.
Oh,
So Maynard is grouped in with a bunch of Middlesex County towns, including all the hoity-toity ones.
oh, so areas, there's multi-town here. Okay.
So I don't remember what the number currently is, but it has to do with your income. For a rental or whatever it is to be deemed affordable, it has to, can you explain this better than I am?
No, you're good, you're doing well.
We're in the Boston Metropolitan District, we're probably the last town in it, so. What the state calculates as affordable in Somerville is the same rent as for Maynard. But,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
they charge $2,800 for a 2-bedroom in Somerville. And, $2,800 would get you a 6-bedroom in Maynard.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, but it just.
The
The
percentage.
number that they use for the affordability law
Is not actually affordable.
is, not, in Maynard, our market rate is the same or less than what they call. affordable.
Yeah, makes sense.
The calculation is skewed because of the large area that we're taking from, so. When we
So
talk,
we get this, but we don't have MWRA service.
we know what,
MWRA service.
well, that's another argument, yeah, don't get me wound up even more. It's, but it's a very important part of what our work as the board we've been doing, because the law says to be affordable, it has to be affordable housing has to be affordable to somebody making 80% of the median income. That's what the law
This is
says.
Casting a wide net on what the,
Well, that's the state.
oh, okay.
So then the question is, what is the area median income? And in our case, like Natalie and Bill were saying, it's the metropolitan Boston area. So the way we want to prepare the town to meet the needs of its residents, housing needs, is we say, why do we need to do 80%? How is that helping us? And in our case, we're trying to say 60%. Okay,
Oh,
so it would be, if housing would be affordable, somebody making 60%. So we're trying to make that more the mainstream in our bylaws and do it, but still be enticing for a developer to come and create housing. But
And that's the trade-off.
that's what we have to figure the trade-off. So right now, we're not, yeah.
Does the renter qualify, but is it economic to build the building in the first place?
Yeah, you gotta find the balance, but, now with this,
Plus the article change of, instead of building 2 at 80%, just build 1 at 60%.
Oh,
so that's what we're saying there.
okay.
So if we did that, we wouldn't have 2 80% units.
Mhm.
But we'd have 1 60% unit. And is that trade-off? Because we don't have any, let's say we don't have many 60% units now. is the value of that trade-off to the community reflective of the needs of our residents? And our housing production plan would say, yeah. And so that's, anyway, there you got.
Yeah.
You stayed awake.
Having a lot of units at 80% when that's not actually affordable to people in Maynard is
So,
less useful, I think, in the long term when we need any units at a lower rate.
But we do need to maintain 10%, which gives us safe harbor. And we'll do, we will move heaven and earth to make sure that we don't get out of 10% once we're almost there. I mean.
All
in
of
terms of.
All of the affordability calculations that the state requires us to maintain
Yeah.
are just 80% AMI. So most towns just stick with 80% AMI, they say, we're doing what we have to do. Maybe not most
So
towns,
it's
but I'm
the,
saying,
it's the letter of the law, but not quite the spirit of it.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
there's nothing dictating what spirit is, in my opinion.
Mm,
80% works in Wellesley, but.
Yeah.
And it might not even work in Wall Street, to be honest with you.
No, I'm sure it doesn't.
It might not.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, so. And you can call my office anytime you have
Yeah,
questions
yeah,
about
yeah,
that, you
sure.
know.
I'm not gonna necessarily write up all of this, but yeah.
But it's huge. It's huge
It's
stuff.
huge. Yeah, I'm gonna concentrate on what's gonna be a town meeting.
Okay, well,
That's a complicated subject.
and I'm gonna yank, for now, I'll yank these others that we talked about, and we'll decide, I'll talk with Bill about the IZ. I'm not gonna get my liver in a quiver over that, over the canopies. We'll talk about the canopies, then we'll bring that back and.
Yeah.
If they wanna come in now, the way, just for FYI, if they wanted to come in now, they would need a variance from the zoning board. That's, so if they wanted to build solar panels. Or where they want to put canopies, that would be the mechanism. People. Typically. You should be very stingy with. Variances because you have to prove a hardship that is not of personal nature. And we don't do, I think we actually do have to do one variance in bylaws, but typically we don't do them. Whereas you know how we do with the special permit, you know, we go this criteria. Well, I have one for variances too. And that's a very heavy lift compared to a special permit, where special permit is just kind of, does it work? And here's how do we have this site specific review.
Look,
So,
I'm happy to hear the sort of case for this.
yeah, that's it.
To understand it better.
Mhm.
But let's do that another time.
Okay. Now,
Item 2. Okay.
With the slideshow,
which ones?
The discussion of phase 2.
VO2.
I made us our own file for this, so we could tinker with it tonight if we wanted. Oh.
Wow,
Is organized.
that's very.
Look at me whipping through here, huh?
Yeah,
Mine's just.
Okay, and here it is, look at what this says,
look at that.
DMD working draft, there it is. All right, which one do you want to open, Bill?
VO2.
MOD VO2. Okay,
Okay, wait, let me share the screen. I don't know if anybody's on here anymore. I'll share it anyway. We put Lily didn't stay.
What is what's the PM? What is it?
Powder Mill Overlay District.
Oh, okay.
Good job, Bill.
Okay.
all right, you can go to this next one. Go to the next image. It's not a PowerPoint, so just scroll.
Oh.
Alright, so. As a background on this, we've been working on the Powder Mill Overlay District for. Probably at least 3 years. Joint effort with Acton, managed by MAPC. We did a joint visioning session for what we wanted along that corridor. Acton has actually implemented all their stuff. Got it past the town meeting, it's all in place. They had a smaller area and simpler pace zoning, so that's why they're ahead of us. We did, last town meeting, we did part of our area. We did section A, which is called the Stratus stuff. And we did it. One reason is because we needed it for the MBTA community zone. That's where we allowed super high intensive multifamily use. It's also a industrial district, so we allowed a bunch of other uses, pretty much anything goes in that. Now, when we passed that town meeting, we didn't just write the new PMOD zoning for A. We wrote it for the whole corridor and left certain areas blank, knowing later we'd add B and add C and add D, each of which has its own rules. There are some overriding guidelines and rules and criteria that apply to the whole thing. So tonight, and what we're talking about is what to do with the rest of the area that's business district. We're not talking about B, we're not talking about C, because those are residential. We're only talking business. We're talking business along the river, which is D and E, and then we're also talking F, which is basically the self-storage facility right on the town line.
Can you say what E and D are? That's from the Elks.
Yeah, so go to the next picture. So D. The north part of D is the extent of the Elks parking lot, paved area. And then it goes towards downtown and stops basically where it hits the DOD line. So it's the parking lot that's now, I don't know, a long time ago, it used to be Ciro's restaurant. So that's D. If we go to the next slide, we'll look at E. So E extends from the Elks paved parking lot all the way up to the John Deere building. So that's E, and that's all currently just zone business, as is D. They're both currently just zone business. Now we look at the next one. And this is what we're calling F. And it's basically the self-storage and half of Wendy's is what it turns out to be because of the town line. And that's zoned industrial. So, you know, so they each one already have current underlying uses that you can do there, depending on whether it's business or industrial.
Does DOD stand for downtown?
Downtown Overlay
Yeah,
District.
got it, okay.
So go to the next one. Okay, so this is a summary of the visioning for those areas. And A is, you know, large footprint commercial and high, super high intensity residential. D is supposed to be smaller scale mixed use. E is even more compact and kind of rolling into the downtown. And then F was not visioned separately, it was always considered D, but we found that we were going through it in more detail. It's a little different than the river edge properties and it needs its different set of rules. So we call it F, and it's, you know, it's got gateway prominence, but it's kind of a transition zone between residential, between Acton's small business and rolling up into our A zone, which is heavier, more dense commercial. So it's a transition area. Now, I've handed out to you 3 hard copies. The first has a faded, almost a header that says Article 28. That is the exact language that we approved at town meeting for the PMOD district. that primarily includes all the details on A. But as I said, it does include some general stuff that applies everywhere. The second thing I did, a thicker one is, starts with 9.7 Powder Mill Overlay District, and it has some crossouts and adds, and this is just theoretical edits to the old town meeting article. So it's edits, it's what we would have to edit for the existing text. And then the last thing I gave you is this little table of comparison of use regulations. We're gonna refer to that later, because it's a little too complex to roll that into the red line version. But on the top of that, you'll see a reference there to the desired development outcomes for those areas, in case you want to keep it in mind, and we don't have to go back to this screen. So what I want to do is take the red line version of the markup and just roll through a couple section by section. See what would be different from what's currently written in the zoning. So Bill, if you can go to the next one. So the beginning is 9.7.1. And that's generic purpose intent for the whole area, all the sub-district. That's not changed at all. And then Bill, if you go to the next one. Now, applicability 9.7. Yeah, it's supposed to be 2, sorry. There's actually nothing new there. There's a little bit of text that was moved around from a later one, but there's nothing new in this section. But I think it's an important section to understand, in that. And Bill, you gotta make sure I get this correct, but, this DOD, this overlay district that we're thinking of is a voluntary overlay district. So you can currently do whatever is allowed under the base zoning. You wanna put a car wash on top instead of the self-storage thing, that's currently allowed in industrial. If zoning doesn't, go right ahead, none of this applies. But if you want to add a use that you're not currently allowed to do in industrial, but you could be allowed to do in the overlay district, then you can choose the overlay district rules, but then you gotta stick with all the overlay district rules. So you can stay under the base and just use the base rules and do what's allowed there, or if you wanna do something because you want a different use, or maybe the overlay district lets you be bigger or less setbacks. If you wanna do it with the overlay rules, then you gotta go by all the overlay rules. Okay, go to the next one. So, permitting wise, currently in the zoning, the PMOD zoning, section 9.3 says where the special permit is. Okay, that's unchanged. 9.7.5 says you gotta do site plan approvals just like you do anywhere else. That's unchanged. And section 9.7.4 says, you know what? The PMOD has some special criteria for special permits. So if you need a special permit, you have to go by the townwide 10.4 criteria plus the special PMOD special permit criteria. And that stuff, that's existing. That's already approved by town meeting, that's in there. Now, when we were going through it, and trying to incorporate all the recommendations from the MAPC envisioning and things, there are some site and building design standards that we're suggesting need to be added. Whether it's, what the facade looks like, or whether there's river access or whatever. And this markup here puts it into 2 groups. Some that just apply to every project in the PMOD, and some more extensive rules and regs that require just for the bigger projects in the PMOD. So let's go to the next one. Oh, yeah, all right, so special permit criteria. That section stays the same. That's the criteria that applies everywhere. This is the extra PMOD criteria that requires all projects regardless. And, you know, we had talked about this when we first put it together. There's no real changes in this section here. The next one, please, Bill. Then we go to affordable housing, which is 976 in our rules. Now, there are a couple things we had to change. One is when we passed the rules at last town meeting for sub-district A, the MBTA zoning area. We had a section in there saying, you know what, we're gonna require a percent of affordable housing per the town guideline, per the state guideline. But we didn't know what that was, because they had to do a financial calculation based on, you know, the financial viability of building a certain percentage of affordable housing. And after we passed town meeting, they finally gave us those numbers. So now we know those numbers. So one edit we're gonna do is go back and just put in the town numbers. So if you look at the red line text copy, the 9.7.6.1, that's the language that the state requires us to have. The other thing we're suggesting is in sub-districts other than A, well, we wanna have, more 60% AMI units. So we're suggesting a trade of, you know, 60% AMI for 80% AMI, in those sub-districts. And then also, there's been a minor tweak to the percentages required, percent affordable housing required in the PMOD. And it's been lessened slightly, mostly rounding down for partial units. So that you see in the red line markup under 9762. So what we're saying is anywhere in the PMOD, D district, E district, and F district, you know, 6 to 19 dwelling units is 10%. 20 or more is 20%, and 40 or more is 25%. And, you know, the prior language had, you know, 12% for 13 to 17, or 15% to 18 to 20, but, you know, that went down to 10, but, you know, when you're talking that small, you're talking partial units. So we're trying to make it a little more attractive for people to come in and bring in the housing projects, and choose the PMOD rules to do so. Because there are some benefits to the town later that we get from that. Yes, I guess we can skip the next. Go to that one, all right here, so. Dimensional requirements, we go to page 4 of this red line thing. And. We currently have dimensional requirements just written for the A sub-district. And that pretty much stays the same. We're suggesting a little clarification, because right now we just have something that says area square feet, and in A, it just says 1,500 square feet per residential unit, but we wanted to clarify to make sure that that's just for residential uses, and then all other uses have to have the standard 7,000 square feet lot size, which is basically what we have now in business districts. It's also what Acton put in their powder mill zoning, so we wanted to add that. And then the other columns there, we have the dimensions for D, the dimensions for E, the dimensions for F. They're all a little better, or almost all of them are a little better than the current underlying zoning. Not much better, but some better. So hopefully that proves attractive to to developers. One thing that we had, thought about was regarding open space. And there's a couple things. One is, later we'll talk about incentivizing river access. And, our open space requirements, we don't want to penalize like that, so that's covered by some footnotes and dimensions. But the other thing is that it gets a little weird along the river, because some of these parcels, the river boundary changes as the river change, and some of the parcels are actually a big hunk of water. So what we're saying in that table at the last line under open space, we're saying that 100% of the area more than 150 feet away from the powder mill frontage has to be open space. So basically no hardscape, no buildings, no parking, no storage. Now what that does, Bill, if you go to the next slide there. So a little hard to see there, but the blue lines perpendicular to powder mill are extending about 150 feet. So if you think about the Victory Plaza lot where, the co-op is and all that. Their parking lot on their right-hand side, it basically goes to the face of their dumpsters. That's where 150 feet ends. It makes a bigger difference, farther down towards downtown, because there's a lot of open space near the river. But like we say, can't really do the dimension from the river because that keeps changing, so we were trying to do the dimension from the road right away. And if you move down our PMOD, we don't have a picture of it, but say it was the Elks. The Elks parking lot is like 155 feet long. I mean, it's almost right, 150 feet right to the river, and rest of the parcels are even, less deep, so it wouldn't even apply to them. But the hope here is that what treed area we have already next to the river doesn't really get impacted if they choose to do the PMOD rules for their development. Now, they could still do business rules on the underlying district and do whatever those business rules say, but we're just proposing that. If they're doing it by the PMOD rules because they want to put in a use that's not currently allowed, then they would have to make sure they don't extend past that 150-foot line. The next one is parking. And we talked about this a little at a different meeting. Our current requirements for parking seem way too high, and almost everybody who comes in asks for relief. They want lower numbers, so we're just saying, let's just set a min and a max. The minimum is a low number. They don't have to ask special permission. It's just about the number that everybody is using anyways. And it's also a little consistent between uses, so if there's a change of use, you don't have to argue about whether you have to build some more parking. And then we'd have a maximum that would just allow us for those few projects that think they want a lot of parking, we could have a discussion. I mean, we still have the power to waive any parking requirements in our zoning anyway. So if they want more than this maximum number, and they have a good reason, then there's still a way to get it. So the difference in the zoning would be adding a min and max. And then going to the next. The next two slides don't really have anything, but next slide is talking about permitted and prohibited uses. So I hand it over to Natalie, and we're going to be talking about this table here, which is a comparison of use regulation. And this would not be the exact edit in the article. This is just a table showing all the uses that we list currently in zoning and how it would differ between the the current underlying B and I zones and the proposed zones. And just a little bit of reading this, like. If you read the line, it says live, work, dwelling, and you look under PMOD E. There's a little tiny Y in a parentheses. That's just a reminder that that's already currently permitted under the underlying zone. So only the capital stuff and the stuff that is highlighted is new, would be, something that is less restrictive or occasionally more restrictive than current. So it's all yours now.
Bill, do you have this on there? Should we bring it up or do you not?
The which pay?
The new use
Okay.
table.
Another file. Yeah, you had it in your little subdirectory.
This one use table?
Yes.
Yeah.
You need to reshare or is that the same thing?
Oh, and we did the color version. I'm too cheap to print color.
This one?
Yeah. So when we were going through the use table, it's a balance of saying yes to things. We wanna draw people in to encourage people to be using the overlay district. So saying yes or special permit where there were previously no's, right? But additionally, this is right on the river, so certain things are not necessarily appropriate. So, for example, a lot of things aren't changing. Garden apartment, that's got a special definition in our town anyway, so that's not changing. Healthcare and elderly housing. Live, work, dwelling unit. Let's see.
That
So-
would change for F, because F is in the industrial zone.
Yes, so the theory is previously live, work, dwelling units were not, or they're not allowed in the industrial zone. But F, is this gateway, it's this sort of transition area between high density A and Acton and the rest of Powder Mill. So we thought that it would be appropriate to allow a live, work, dwelling unit there. Multifamily dwelling, so obviously. This is talking about A. Currently in the business district, it is a special permit planning board decision. And we are proposing to say no in D and E, because the point of D and E as described on the top of the page, thank you. Is smaller scale mixed use development with first floor retail. To engage the street front and the river in both of them, so having only multifamily dwellings does not really. Do that, so we're saying no, and we're saying special permit for F, because. Again, underlying is industrial, it does feel appropriate, perhaps there, so. Let them do it if they want to. The next ones are PMOD, mixed use. 12 units and more than 12 units. Which will be. Yeses for up to 12 units and special permits for more than 12 units.
I think that's. The core of the. Visioning for D and E. Is small mixed use, so. By allowing the smaller mixed use by right. Seems to be keeping with the vision. And then a careful consideration under special permit if they want a larger mixed use.
Let's see, nursing and convalescent home. Though that's more of a residential, that's a residential use without any. Activated daily interactions with the public. So we were saying no for D and E, but again, special permit for F. We jumped down to public market. Which has a very specific definition. Which I should have gotten. Well, anyway, public market, we're saying it's currently no in the business and industrial district, and so we're saying special permits could be used for them in D, E, and F. Let's see, we have farm stand down at the bottom. Which currently is special permit for D and E, or for the underlying zone, and it would continue to be that on the river side. And it would be newly allowed in F.
Under 3. We have to scroll down and see that. Oh, okay.
There you go. Yeah.
So this would be increasing the allowance, you'd be allowed to do it in the industrial zone if you're using the overlay. Let's see. We've got body art establishment. Currently in the industrial district, you need a special permit and we would be allowing it by right in F. Brewery with ancillary food service currently is not allowed in business or industrial. And we would be saying yes in D, special permit in E. The thought was that E is so shallow. Having a brewery right on the river when it's such a shallow parcel, we want to take a closer look at.
And E also bumps into more residential issues than D.
And E, and F would be a yes. We've got cocktail lounge being added to F. We've got farmer brewery being added to F. We've got general or personal service establishment. That's like hair salons and stuff.
Lots of things.
It's a lot of things, but that would be, again, being added to F by right in this case. Hotels, motels, extended stay facilities, so currently it's special permit for business and no for industrial, and we're keeping with we're saying that a hotel, motel, extended stay facility, primarily residential, is not what we have envisioning. We're not envisioning for the riverside of Powderville, so that we put as no with a yes for F. Kennel, similar, that a dog kennel, a commercial dog kennel is not part of our vision. So we are proposing no. Marijuana retailer is being added, because it would be special permit anyway, I think, so we're adding that instead of straight no for the underlying industrial. Courier facility, same thing. A courier facility and a delivery operator, they all have very specific definitions. Let's see, medical office, a lot of these are, the industrial is the one that's changing the most radically, so. Medical office is gonna be a yes instead of a special permit. Micro distillery or micro winery is going to be a special permit instead of a no. We've got printing shops, yes and F. We've got private clubs. Currently, you need a special permit and there's none in the industrial. We would be changing all of those to being allowed by right. Restaurants, currently no in industrial, that would be yes in F. Restaurant fast food, we're talking about keeping that as a special permit in F. Retail business would be allowed by right in F. Theater, hall, club, or other place of entertainment would be yes and F. Veterinarian office or animal hospital, yes and F. That would stay a special permit in D and E. Jump down to mini or self-storage facility, that would say yes in the industrial and in F. And we would be saying no to that by the river. Wholesale business, again, no by the river, and that would be a special permit in F. And now in our accessory uses, we have accessory dwelling units. We're gonna be, those are allowed, by the new state law those are allowed by right in residential areas, but we would be saying no in D and E.
Mostly because D and E don't have single family residential. So we wouldn't have accessory to single family residential.
Adult daycare, we are saying yes, currently it's special permit and no in business and industrial. And we're saying that an adult daycare, which has like similar to a family daycare. You know. Seems to fit the ideas, drive-in or drive-through facility, no to drive-in and drive-throughs on the riverside, special permit in F. A private kennel. Would still be no on the riverside and D and E, special permit in F, and then overnight outdoor parking of one or more commercial vehicles in excess of. A big weight is no on the riverside and special permit in. Yeah. There's my. I know, I'm just reading them alive, but overall, our thought was that we're trying to keep in line with the desired development outcomes for D and E, and then separately F. We feel like they're pretty different, so we changed some of them up.
And one thing we have. That's different from Acton. Acton's outer mill area already had its own specific zoning. For that area, so if they wanted to get rid of car washes. In the overlay, they struck it from the base as well. We don't have that choice here. So any of these ends only happen if for some reason they choose to use the PMOD overlay rules. Maybe they want it bigger as that, but. So it's a little weird. Trying to say, no, you can't. Put a car wash along the river or something. Because under the underlying zoning, you can. So they just won't choose to use the overlay. They'll just say, I'm just gonna build my car wash.
Did anything jump out to anyone?
Can we stick with the table?
Yeah,
I have some questions.
yeah,
So if we're envisioning mixed use in D and D
yes,
and a developer chooses mixed use, and on the first floor, they want to put a fitness club. As of now, I don't think that would be allowed. Right?
Well, you gotta go to the. Asterisk on the bottom of page 3, which is copied from a section in there's a.
What is the asterisk?
For these mixed use, you have retail, restaurant, office, or medical on the ground floor unless. Planning board says you can use something else.
Okay, so. Basically, the special permit would then could allow those other items if mixed use is chosen.
Yeah, although, you know, we could. We could add, yeah. Is that handled by personal service or anything? I don't know what fitness club comes under.
It's
It's
the
here.
business use. It says fitness club.
yeah.
That was just an
Oh,
example.
that's a standalone thing, okay, so
Yeah.
they would have to. And under this one, they would have to ask permission in the permitting process for us to allow.
Okay. Yeah, because that answers my question, because there's a number of these, you know, bank and financial institution, business or professional office, that I could see as being part of mixed use.
Yep.
But that answers.
What we're trying to avoid is a warehouse on the ground floor, right?
Funeral home,
Yes.
first floor.
Yes, I'm right. That's good, that is very good. Why not? let's see,
Yes, please ask why not, if you have any, why not? Throw them at us, cause
so Jeff, you have questions? Why not a small supermarket?
Well, sure, because currently the underlying allows special permit, so actually it's already allowed, so we're not stopping that. The underlying allows that use, so they can use that. Now, they could still choose to use the PMOD rules to
Right.
make it have taller or different setbacks.
If it was mixed use, they could choose a small supermarket.
Oh,
Up
so
to
you're talking
25.
like you're talking like a really small supermarket?
Yeah, up
Mixed
to
use?
25,000 square feet. That, but under mixed use, they could then use it, because right now there's nothing under DV.
Yeah,
Right,
But they could do it under the mixed use asterisk.
right, but they could do it standalone
They,
too,
they could do the same.
because it's allowed under the base zoning, both
They could
industrial and business.
Well, didn't we put somewhere in here, Bill, that underlying
We just talked about that, yeah.
uses? But didn't we have it in here?
what about it?
That
Yeah, yeah.
underlying,
It's in the existing
yeah, somewhere.
zoning language.
Okay, yeah, right, right.
Applicability.
Right.
You know, the
Oh, yeah.
underlying rules unless overlay contradicts it, in which case the overlay rules.
Right, okay, yeah, we did, that's what it was.
Or mixed use. On the first page of the table, we have the map, we have that 12 units is the sort of change. That we just,
How do we pick 12?
yeah, is it just a good number? And I'm not saying it's a bad number. But we just picked a number, right?
Yeah, it wasn't just, throw a dart.
No, I know that.
We,
But like, it's not like there's no regulation, there's nothing in.
No.
It didn't come from anywhere, we just looked at size and said 12 is.
Yeah, it's really looking at size, cause 12 units, they're what, 700-ish units, 700 square feet per unit, then the ground floor and that, and
Yeah.
is it, it's 10,000-ish square feet.
I'm also asking because we're gonna have to. Present this later on, so it sounds like it came from a number. We looked at it from square footage.
Yes.
Sort of sizes and that.
and looking at the existing parcels. The existing,
I can say it's a thoughtful number.
It is a thought. May
Well-
not be correct, but it's thoughtful.
What is public? What is a public market?
yeah, do you have your zoning thing?
Public market?
Can you read that?
Do we have any?
I forgot, I was gonna bring that. next
No, I have it here, I think.
Public market. A market or marketplace as defined in general law, chapter 40, section 10.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Is that helpful?
It's very helpful.
Okay.
Reach back for your chapter.
Yeah.
Do we have any public markets in town? Probably not.
Probably not. I don't
No,
know what it was. Natalie looked into it and found it was very innocuous.
I did what, sorry?
You looked into it and found it really.
Is it like Faneuil Hall?
Yes.
Is that like a public market?
Yes,
Okay.
that is the closest thing I
Alright.
would compare it to.
Oh, stalls and push carts and what have you.
Yes,
Yeah.
did it have something to do with the ownership?
I don't know.
I think there was
Chapter 4.
I,
I don't care.
No, look, it's great. Special permit, great. They just have to come and talk to. people.
Yeah.
and then we'll all look up Mass General Law.
Or it's very close to a shopping mall. In its sense.
No,
Yeah.
it's not a
Well-
mall. That word is not allowed to be used.
Oh,
In
okay.
this district.
It seems to me it was. There was something of a
It's a-
nonprofit, was it with a nonprofit?
Sorry, I'm sorry I asked the question.
Yes. We're just
It's
conjecture.
also not a permanent, not permanent, right? Wasn't it like non-permanent?
Really? I have no idea.
All right,
You told me it was not harmful, yeah, I went with it.
Because you had a question.
no, we looked it up, Natalie, remember,
We did look it up, but that was a long time ago. My brain is,
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago was a long time.
It was a
ago.
lot, you're right, it was, I don't remember.
Kind of PMOD adjacent but directly affecting it, are there any of these items that you are concerned with it? If somebody wants to do something under the underlying business or industrial zone that really goes against the vision for the PMOD, do we need to consider changing any of those to?
Yes, but if we change them currently, like, let's say, a lot of stuff is allowed in the business district.
Right.
we don't necessarily wanna say no car washes anywhere in the business district, even though I really don't want one right along the river. So,
Yeah, most of this is theoretically, we could go through the entire use thing outside of the overlay district zoning section, go to the other use section and throw in an asterisk and say, yeah, but not along the river on a bunch of uses. But I don't know. It's just, it is a little awkward. But,
Is
you know,
there
maybe
any-
that's something that happens in
No,
the steps.
Is there a way to, we
Yeah.
can specifically disallow anything? Or is that kind of against the rules of?
You have to be careful, it's a good question, because what you're saying, if I understand it, is like right now. We have a goal in our master plan to eliminate. Industrial uses, the industrial use category and move away towards more mixed use. It's been for the last two master plans. There's some uses in there that. Are underlying that, like, I think the old air curtain incinerator or something like that. You're saying, how do you keep that? If somebody wants to just pop one in there. I didn't identify any, but that doesn't, it probably is worth looking again, because and also that would be a separate amendment. Because we're doing the PMOD, but we would wanna
Understood.
note them,
Yeah.
and now would be the time to do it.
Thinking about how to protect
Yeah,
the vision of this.
well, now would be the time to do it, but we, you know,
I think
yeah, that's a
that
great
was-
point, Chris.
It happens with the next step, right? Isn't there the next step to these efforts? I think it happens then. Like we have to, and I think.
Is that like a select board thing? We'd have to change the underlying business district?
no, we do.
That's us.
Well,
That's us?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it would be a separate warrant article.
Sure, sure,
Yeah,
sure.
right.
We'd be changing it for the whole town.
Right, understood.
And the danger sometimes with that, Chris, is downzoning. If typically like a use is not an issue. But it has happened in the past where a parcel of land has a value as a site, let's say a business site. And a zoning action was taken, a police action, that removed the right to use that as was intended by the purchaser. And it can be, sometimes that can end up but that would be it would be a long shot, something like this, but that's a good question.
It's a challenging topic. We would have to get into. You know, would properties then become. Not commercial properties from a taxation standpoint too, things like that, so it's.
When does it become a
Would
taking?
existing things not be grandfathered in?
If they exist, they would, and the right to use it, the right to do it. In most cases would.
The problem comes with the piece of land's value changes because you can no longer build a car wash there,
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. But I don't think we have, if we take a peek, this is one thing we wanna take a look at, but I don't know that we have any that you,
Other questions? Let's just keep moving this along. I had a question on. No, not this question, good question on 976. Just with the calculation of.
Well, we also have one more section to talk about.
Oh, we do?
Super good and exciting stuff.
Okay.
you want me to pull up something?
So. Actually, can you pull up the red line?
Is the one you sent me, right?
Yeah. Natalie wants to talk about 9711 and 9712.
Okay,
The building standards.
the building standard.
Can I just ask like one question about,
Sure.
Before we begin, how are we rounding? Did it say how we're rounding?
You go to 976 first.
I'm down to the next whole number.
Oh, but
9/7.
yeah, it probably needs, it might need to be clarified in there, but the standard elsewhere is round, up.
Up to the full number?
Yeah, we put that,
that's in
somewhere.
I gotta check. No, cause.
Okay, I see now.
Cause the existing stuff does have a way to
This
buy
was
down
in,
partial.
this was in POME, PMODA, any fractional unit should be rounded down to the next one.
Yeah.
That's required by the state.
Yeah,
For
but
A.
that's not,
Well, actually, no, that's just, I think the way we wrote it.
I don't think we have, but that statement is not in, the next section.
It is not because, these are exceptions to section 710.
Mhm.
So we would do the rounding however 710 said to do it.
Okay.
But it probably couldn't hurt to put that in to make that clear, just so people aren't bopping back and forth.
Yeah.
Pages.
Okay, go down to 79711, please. So the next section is on our
There you go.
site and building design standard. Now, everyone, keep in mind the purpose, right? The purpose of the Powder Mill Overlay District was sustainable development, quality site, and architectural standards, a range of housing choices, mixed retail, commercial, residential, increased views, access, connections to the river, stormwater, blah, blah, blah. Basically, we're trying to make it better for businesses, we're trying to make it better for pedestrians, bicycles, whatever. So this is our section that specifically addresses that.
There's two sections. One applies to every project that uses the PMOD zoning, and then the other applies to big projects. that use the PMOD zoning.
Do you want me to read it? Or shall I?
Highlights, what do you got for highlights?
Please.
The following standards, blah, 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 all rights except PMODA, because we can't tell them to do anything really.
Because of the MBTA zoning.
Yeah. Where possible, building settings should create or enhance the view of the riverfront area from a public right of way. The design for the primary elevation of multi-story buildings shall create a visual distinction between the ground and upper stories, such as a step back, architectural banding, or other visual break. That is to create, make sure that we don't get a big brick boxes. Walkways and pedestrian connections. That's asking for parking lots to be made in ways that allow pedestrians to move through them safely. Sidewalks, the sidewalk shall be maintained or created along the street frontage with minimal interruption by driveways. Along Powder Mill Road street frontage within the required landscape setback along the front lot line, an easement shall be provided to allow for an expansion of the public walkway or sidewalk by the town. This is so that eventually, if enough property and enough parcels along Powder Mill are going to be using, when they do new development, they'll be using this, they will be required to allow for a easement so that maybe someday we could have a multi-use pathway along Powder Mill Road, on the road. You know, something more,
And this would be an area they can't really build anyways.
right,
So they're required to have a landscape setback from their front lot line. They would just have to give an easement to the town within that landscape area.
so that would not affect their, you know, building rights. Location of driveway and parking lots, driveways and parking lots shall be designed in ways that allow safe passage, blah, blah, blah. Minimize the number of and width of curb cut to allow the safe passage of pedestrians on sidewalks. Then we added all lots that abut the Assabet River shall prioritize parking lots and driveways being placed aside the primary building, under the primary building, or in a way that maintains dual-sided facade of these buildings. Development that is on the river will not just have a pretty front to the building and an ugly back of the building facing the river. They really should be designed in a way that is two-sided, right? That both sides of the building are prioritizing.
Which one are you on, 7?
I'm on
5A.
5.
Oh, 5, okay. Oh, 5, 8, okay.
Street trees. Street trees is pretty normal. Vista pruning for lots that abut the Assabet River. Vista pruning is encouraged to create visual access to the river. Thinning things. This is all in consultation with the town's conservation agent. That came from MAPC and that.
Yeah, a lot of this building and design standards came from the original MAPC work, and we just took the stuff that was still applicable. Moved it around to the two categories.
And they also worked with conservation on some of the language. Bill, if you wanna go to the next page. The next page delves into the large project category. Which is, new development on all lots utilizing the overlay district that have more than 50,000 square feet of land area. Or projects that create more than 10,000 square feet, gross square feet of building. So this gets into more, again, a lot of this language is from the MAPC, suggestions. Flat roof buildings that have a height greater than 36 feet shall provide more significant architectural elements to break up the vertical expanse of the building. So this is again, just giant blocks for moving in. Promoting visual interest and allow variation of the building facade. Large projects in D and E shall treat the facade of the building facing the river as a second primary facade. Storage sheds, trash storage, and other detached outdoor structures shall not be located between the facade and the river. Again, this is trying to encourage these projects to not put all of their stuff in the back. Pedestrian amenities and pocket parks. Projects shall have one or more pedestrian amenities or pocket parks accessible to the public every day from dawn till dusk. This is things like a seating area, a space for public art, signage, benches, flower beds, basketball courts. That is visible either from the road or from the river. There's guidelines for trees, other landscaping. Enhancing the appearance of the corridor. And then for parcels abutting the Assabet River, this is the last part of the page. Bill, if you wanna scroll down a little bit. For parcels abutting the Assabet River, permanent easements for public access along the river may be provided to the town in lieu of physical infrastructure. This is part of Natalie's grand plan to have a river walk someday. So the theory is that another public amenity that could be provided would be permission for a future, an easement for a future contiguous river walk, which I know won't happen for another 100 years, but a girl can dream.
You never know, you never know.
And that's it. What do you guys think?
Excellent.
Pretty good, actually, yes. I have two questions.
Yeah.
And maybe I missed it. I thought we discussed, discussed the use of buffers for in between, we discussed about creating a buffer in between where we're having, to try to separate pedestrian and bike uses wherever we could, and making that as, one of the potential improvements.
Oh,
Or a landscape buffer, and maybe we never actually, but that might be
no,
something.
we've discussed that in other places, but I didn't really think of it, so.
And I don't know, it was a landscape buffer.
We address those issues. Perhaps indirectly two ways. One is there's a section about the connections from the public sidewalk to the primary building
Mhm.
have to be, dedicated pedestrian bike. They can't just be navigating through the parking lot.
Right,
And then there's also, I suppose it would be the requirement for an easement along the landscape buffer that in the future could become.
But you're talking
dedicated
about,
pedestrian path.
you're talking about encouraging people. Or putting it in the list of options for how they could improve it.
well,
Doing some sort of-
I'm trying to think how, when we have areas that are very narrow.
Yeah,
And if one of the goals is separation. However slight. Of bicycles and pedestrians from traffic. What could accomplish that, cause it's gonna be tough in some of those areas. I could see like this where we have an easement, and we said, okay, we're gonna put a multi-purpose path here.
yeah.
And the person who's cycling or whatever feels completely comfortable, but I'm trying to figure out, and maybe it's make a chicken poop to chicken soup, but
You're on fire tonight with this, I love it. Go ahead.
But how could we, promote a separation, even if it's small, something even like bollards or whatever? So that
Between the road and the sidewalk?
it's, but anytime there's a potential for interaction between a non-motorized vehicle and a motorized vehicle, could we add something in it? Cause this is great. I think that would be the only thing I could.
You can seriously
I think-
have to said that.
I think walkways and pedestrian,
More seriously, finally.
yeah, seriously, I was waiting. Walkways and pedestrian connections, we could flesh that out with a protected walkway shall be provided to connect pedestrians and cyclists from the nearest public sidewalk to the main entrance of the building.
I'm just thinking of like these, when I see a little sharrow, painted on a road.
I don't know what that word
The
means.
little where they have a picture of a bike.
Yep.
You just need a road diet, right?
Right, that's a different thing, I mean.
No, I'm saying, I
You're
don't,
supposed to get a road diet out of it.
No, listen, I think that.
no, I understand.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just saying, I was just curious about that, how we provide the best.
We do have, under the existing zoning language. The special permit criteria for this overlay district does include a requirement. Choice of providing a significant improvement to pedestrian cyclist accessibility on the corridor. I mean, it's one of three things they could do,
Uh-huh.
they have to do one of them.
Yeah, but could we put in a sentence in either 9.7.11? What do you want? Can you go back to 9.7.11? Maybe under either 3 or 5. I don't know, something. Adding something about,
Trying to minimize curb cuts.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm saying that I wouldn't want somebody, cause I have heard this with other, in the past. Somebody's giving us a 3-foot painted line on the side of a road and this death trap of a highway.
Yeah.
A bike on and saying, I'm improving the bike experience. That is not, when we do better,
oh,
that's all I'm saying, that's my only comment.
You're in the right of way doing this, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, presumably.
Well, I mean, I would hope that we didn't. Acknowledge what you cited as a example of a significant improvement to.
No,
Bicycle.
we wouldn't, but would future plan, we don't.
right, that's kind of squishy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's always been squishy language, so,
It's so perfect, it's the next board we have to work on.
Yeah,
yeah.
they could be hammerheads,
Always.
and then what?
So what's our job tonight? We're just.
Tonight, here's what I would request you guys to. Are we gonna try to get this on the Springtown meeting? I think this is terrific. But we're gonna, do we wanna try to get the Springtown meeting? There's no guarantee we're gonna have a fall town meeting. We typically do, people always. I say, well, I don't know if we will, but I can't promise that.
Yeah.
So that is this is just terrific work, but do we need time to sell it? More, we had 2 years of public, like, one thing that in the beginning of Bill's presentation where he says about, these, some of the criteria and the components were, added after years. That's after years of public input. So it's not like this was done in a vacuum. But on the other hand, we've made some changes that are definitely for the better. And, so I think. Timeline wise, I gotta get this cooking. If we're gonna, do it, and is it worth it, or can we make this? Do we wanna work on this and tinker on it? So that's my,
I mean, how are we, but the process to get feedback is to have a hearing on it.
that's right.
To release a routing memo that says, give us feedback. Right? So,
Well, we're talking about internal feedback or external?
I'm talking about town and committee feedback.
Oh, yeah, Well, they should have already given us most of it, so and they're familiar with it, but we routed out again to all the boards and
Are you
committees.
thinking public, are you thinking public feedback on this some more?
We're gonna get public feedback because we know that from, we know that from.
Get that through a hearing process, too, right?
That's right. That's right. But
So-
we're gonna have, here's my point on that. If you remember, when we got through A. And I had I wanted to make it clear that we don't have time to horse around. Let's pull A out so we meet the MBTA communities, and a couple of groups were like, well, we wanna look at some other stuff when we come back. So there's gonna be some other input there. So that was.
Let's get input, and if we decide, if we're getting a lot of good input where we think we want to. I don't know, make revisions. And we wanna take more time, then. We can, continue the hearings until. What are our options?
Well, you mean if we're trying to make spring?
If we decide that there's a lot of, we wanna make more revisions.
Well, we could do, I mean, we
Just
could,
like-
if we advertise, nothing. There would be nothing except the expensive ads and the labor. To go ahead and say, we're going to,
Nothing except the
I'm gonna
labor.
have to take off and I'm hoping we're near the end here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Also, my car is charging and it says, the rate is about to go up. You've been here more than 2 hours. I'm like, yeah.
that's how we salary everybody.
I know, yeah.
So, yeah, so I guess the thing is, if we wanted to advertise it, like theoretically, I'd ask Bill and Natalie to make their final tweaks. Circulate them, and I gotta get them to the board upstairs. They would come back from the select board, and I would advertise it, schedule it for hearings. And at that point, we would open for public comment. We would have, warrant is closed. What was the date of warrant closes? You remember, Bill?
I think we,
It's February 28th, right?
I think we continue to push on and if.
Well, then if we didn't have it done by February 28th,
I think it's-
then we would be.
Oh, but then we continue to work on it in the spring and then we have it ready for the next town meeting.
Yeah, it'd have to be either advertised or not. Good night, Glenn.
And I,
It would have to be either advertised, and if we advertised it for. The hearings, we'd have to, that would be the end, we'd either say. That's a good question. I don't know, if you advertise it for one town meeting. And you didn't have it, would you have to re-advertise? Well, it doesn't matter, we're talking about the price of an ad.
I wanna get, I wanna get as much public feedback as we can. I think the way to do that is to hold hearings on it.
We're not gonna have much time before this, though, to make changes, if you're gonna do that.
So it's interesting, cause you're right, most of this already came from a lot of public feedback.
And we can emphasize that, it's not,
There's not a whole lot new in here, it's just the MAPC.
well, the biggest thing, yeah, and we're not touching, and we make it clear. Nobody's horsing around with PMODA, which we can. But on the other hand, if we think that, I don't know what to do on this. I think it's really good the way it is, and I'm willing to give it a try, but realistically, we're gonna have a chance for 1 or 2 hearings at max.
And maybe that's all we need. I just don't know.
Yeah.
Right? But if we get a lot of good input that says, hey, we should look at this a little differently, that's fine. Of course.
4 pages on Vista Point.
I could see something coming in that requires re-advertisement, and then we do an advertised hearing and there's another change. I don't know.
I can tell you wanna delay.
My gut tells me delay. But my heart tells me that I wanna go with this.
Will, me too.
I mean,
Well, my
like,
gut tells me we're gonna have some problems.
okay. Yeah, but the thing is, this is really good work.
Well, let's just do it then.
And the problems I think you're envisioning are people misunderstanding it.
Just the typical
let's try, and if it all
Okay,
falls
so-
apart at the first public hearing, then,
We could just,
well, we've wasted the advertisements for. the
yeah, that's it, I mean,
And the labor.
that's it, and we just get a couple people to plug in for the electric charging, and we.
Exactly.
Well, like, no,
Okay, so if we wanna do that, if you guys, just. If you're good with that, we'll do it, we'll make the changes, I
And
get it,
send Bill anything, if you guys think that, you know, car washes should be allowed,
but
well,
let's,
maybe not that, but you know. if-
I have
In the river,
yeah,
I have a couple quick questions.
Yes,
sure.
Sidewalks.
Yes.
On site and building design standards.
yes,
Could we, very much more, could we say a minimum width?
okay, so we had a minimum width. But then the theory was, since this is used by everyone, right? This is the general ones, not for the large projects.
Mhm.
If the florist, right? Building is having a change of use or something that requires a special permit. Do we wanna make them have to put in a new sidewalk? If it's like a smaller project? Then there's already a sidewalk there that maybe is not ADA compliant, but it's what's there now, do we wanna force them to put in a new 5 foot wide sidewalk? I know what you're saying, our
That's
theory
maybe
was,
what-
how do we say for new construction, like if there's no sidewalk there, you've gotta put one in versus maintaining what's already there. I'm not opposed to the idea of putting something in, but,
It's tough because every situation I wanna judge differently,
right,
so
so like you're not gonna treat,
I'm also
Not a
thinking.
big,
What's your number for sidewalk?
I was thinking like a minimum of 6 or something, nothing like crazy.
No,
So-
6 is pretty
huh?
crazy.
6 is roomy, but you could. Pass someone without having to do the side shuffle.
I'm sorry, where are we talking about this sidewalk? Is this sidewalk interior?
is this?
9.7.11, number 4.
11.4.
I do like this, it should be.
So this is frontage sidewalk, so the problem will be,
We're gonna have to go into the.
the problem is the current sidewalks aren't that wide.
So
So
your idea.
are we
is
telling
talk
them to
about-
expand into the right of way or expand into their property?
Is your idea going back to the river or along the front?
No, I'm thinking along the frontage.
Yeah,
I'm totally with you, it should, yeah, along that road, boy, it should be at least 6 feet wide.
oh, I mean, I totally agree.
Now,
I guess I'd have to take a closer look at what's out there, but I was thinking, you know, if you left the right of way alone and just bumped it in a couple feet.
now, one thing you have to keep in mind is, this is design standards. General for the entire overlay district, which eventually will also include the residential properties across the street. So do those sidewalks wanna go into their yards? Probably, those sidewalks are terrible, but we have to keep in mind that, you know, we're not always just talking about the riverside.
Could we change it to, in the last sentence of 9.7.11.4 is. New sidewalks shall be constructed with concrete and vertical granite curb. Could we put a minimum dimension there? Could we say new sidewalks shall be 6 feet wide and constructed with? Yeah,
I could, I guess my thought is if, how many times are these buildings gonna change use over the years and whether it's. You know, a smaller project, that might be the only time they have a chance.
I know, so this is the problem, is that. You know, small projects come and we make them do things.
It could be a change
People
of,
call it.
could be a
saying we're
change of
being
use
onerous
without-
On small businesses or whatever it is. I keep going back to the co-op and the building owner being, you know. Annoyed at having to make improvements. And it's like, you know, feeling like, I know,
Then there's a lot of improvement there, right?
I know.
Yeah. So-
Sidewalks are great.
Right, when we stayed away from that sidewalk
I
on
know.
purpose.
I know.
well, actually, that's only for big projects do we get the easement, right? Oh, no, it's all projects.
Yeah.
So,
no, if you're using the the PMOD, I thought you have to give it a use.
so, Cause we're asking for an easement. So, they'd be just widening it into that easement.
You wanna put it in there?
I'm good with new sidewalks. Shall be constructed a minimum 6 feet wide with concrete vertical granite curb. Which I don't even know where that stuff came from, but.
If, we should put some sort of,
I'm just a little worried that it's gonna get undone later when there's a real road diet plan for the quarter.
I don't care.
Okay.
I think there should always be an escape clause for us, so. For that, I don't think putting it in, because I'm worried about an oddball piece of land. That we can't do it. And
Or
we
like-
have a, yeah, that, on the other hand, I don't want a stupid sidewalk like we have a outside of by the,
No sidewalk.
the founders.
Cedar sidewalk.
The founder house.
Sidewalk.
Yeah, no, the one out by the first founder house, it's like this, you saw it, it's like this big.
What are we talking about?
The sidewalk that was put in right by, remember we did 129 Acton, and on the other side is the first house or the first founder's house going.
Oh, yeah, the home site there.
Yeah, the sidewalk is like 2 feet wide, it's like, you can't even walk, so 3 feet would be like a. You know, super highway on it, no, we don't want something stupid like that, and,
Yeah, that was weird.
but. But we may not be able to get it, cause if I have my way, I'll be multi-purpose paths at 9 feet. But you know, with an easement and a buffer, but
So I like,
we couldn't do that in all areas.
for the advertising, we add the 6 foot requirement, and if further discussion means it goes down or away, that's fine.
How about we make them grant an easement for it? And then they have to pay into a fund that will be used for the road diet later on.
Something like that.
I'm sure we could work it out as a condition.
You see what I mean? You know, right? So we get the easement and then the line set up.
We got the easement, because that's the next paragraph.
Okay. And then, but what we need really, big picture is funds to match any type of road diet grant that we get.
Okay, so you know what's
Right.
there, what's there,
I
Yes,
want money to do the whole road. Instead of just doing partial sort of elements of it,
Mm.
right?
Well, that's the way to do it when, if we have little smaller projects. You know, like you said, you don't wanna have just a,
Do the whole thing to 6 feet or make certain donation value.
yeah, make something so that we don't wanna be in there where we have to go back to town meeting, we get a decent project that comes in
Right.
and they don't have the room.
So that
That's
road diet's. What, Jeff? That's a couple mil. For a road diet. Along that like the corridor.
At least, yeah.
I don't think we're gonna get that from Lincoln Streets. For small projects.
Probably not.
That's all gonna come in, mass development.
that's gonna be from charging cars.
Yeah, raise the rates. It's our own money.
I'm trying to find another out, as Bill says. But so like, if you can do 6 feet, great. And if for some reason you can't, here's another option, and that's.
So,
that's
Yeah,
monitoring.
the width of, the minimum width considered as
They can do 6 feet.
optimal is 6 feet.
so what's there now? The reason we said maintained or created, right, is because some of the properties have a fine sidewalk, it's whatever. And a lot of them have deteriorated into almost nothing.
Mhm.
4 and 5s and.
Yeah.
Right, but.
So some of them are okay, a lot of them have deteriorated.
Mhm.
And the theory was that, like, again, if it's a relatively minor use change. We don't necessarily want the satin butterfly having to tear up the sidewalk and redo it,
Mhm.
right? But at the same time, if there's nothing there, then yeah, even if it's relatively minor, you maybe wanna be, so. We can change this, we said maintained or created, but we could split it further and say. Sidewalk, an existing side, I don't know, an existing. An existing sidewalk. In usable condition, let's make it all so mushy.
No,
that we'll know
Is
it's all-
there a way you could add something to this? The 974 special permit criteria, would that be enough?
Ooh, Sure, I mean, then you can do it anywhere.
I mean, I know that everything's not a special permit, but
Right.
maybe enough is.
Also, let's remember that this is for the choosing the overlay district
I
with
know.
the incentives in place, so we're supposed to get, we're supposed to force trade.
Right, so this is a 12 unit.
Right,
mixed use.
right. That's what we're talking
So
about.
it's like, okay, yeah, I wanna turn John Deere into a.
Yeah.
12 unit mixed use.
Give me some damn side.
I gotta build 2 feet more sidewalk,
Yes, you do. Yeah. That was-
but I'll be broke, I'll be bankrupt, I can't do that.
But then I can't have the number of parking spaces I need.
Yeah.
I listen enough.
No, you
What-
can't, because it's all gonna be within the frontage setback anyway.
Just throw unless otherwise authorized by the board, sidewalk shall be a minimum of 6 feet. Or 9 feet,
For
You know.
everything,
yeah,
9 feet.
well, I like the multi-purpose paths.
I love it, listen, I'm all
Yeah.
for the multi-purpose path.
So we can be, but no, that's impractical probably, but 6 feet isn't, just say unless otherwise authorized.
Keep dreaming with me about 50 years from now, it's gonna be great. We'll both be.
I mean,
Well, when you say otherwise authorized, does that just turn everything into a special permit then?
Um. It involves the element of horse trading for sure. So we did that, like, for example, Chris, a perfect place we ran into this was originally, now these guys. All get the parking, that we don't want to necessarily create 2 parking spots for every new unit. That we create downtown, So we have like a lot in the DOD, it says something to the effect, the parking. The planning board shall be the parking authority in. For the DOD, and it says that, recognize, it lays out a case, okay, we've already got parking, these are existing places, and. So it sets it up that there's gonna be an individual site-specific review, I guess is what I'm saying. Rather than saying everybody will have a 6 feet, which. Why can't you have a 6 foot? But, and you start from there,
Should be a case why you can't.
right?
That's what I'm starting to. Let's wrap this up. All right.
Okay, so you guys, is it the decision we wanna get to do it?
Do you have any comments?
2 quick ones, we're not to talk about,
Yeah.
but we've talked about.
Yeah.
On the sidewalk topic, is there a way to say the design standard should be that the sidewalk stays elevated across the driveway? And it doesn't go down and then up,
Sure,
'cause I think that works better for pedestrians.
Well, that should be everywhere. There should be a town sidewalk design standard
Yeah, so maybe it's not
that anybody who,
but I figure if we're asking for new sidewalks, there's gonna be new driveways, maybe.
And that we have to be careful about affecting, projects with DPW. So we want- yeah, it could be a little, but,
No.
but we could, if it wasn't a thing, we could put it in the planning board rules and regs. Sidewalk guidelines and not the right place for it, it should be in the DPW standards.
Yeah. And I guess my last thing, and I'll just have to do a little bit more looking at this myself, but I just wanna take a closer look at like. I'm sure that a lot of thought went into the new dimensional regulations.
Yeah.
But comparing that to the underlying zoning. Requirements. And I guess I'm having trouble in my head comparing open space requirements under. PMOD and what's an underlying and just, understanding how. How the incentive works. So I know a lot of it
There's not a lot of
is
incentive.
mostly use space. But I guess on a parcel by parcel basis of your dimensional regulations. I don't know, it's hard to discuss without looking in depth like the lots, but.
I mean, the only comparison, because the current landscape open space requirement is in the underlying is 30%. So in the PMOD, it's all lower than 30%. Except for that addition of, you know, anything. Long. And then protect. Yeah, maybe Conscom is capable of protecting it, but it really needs to not be in anybody's site design.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be something you gotta fight about during the hearing. But yeah, it's not a hell of a lot of incentive for a couple of the parcels.
Yeah, I mean, you get some more height. I see the lot width went down. So if you were to theoretically accumulate a few parcels and subdivide extra parcels out of that.
Yeah, and most of those came through the MAPC process, and I don't really know how they arrived exactly on the numbers. They're the same as Acton's using. The only difference is our front yard setback is a little more than Acton's using. Just thinking about leaving room for multi-use paths later.
Yeah,
And then the side yard setbacks are a little wider, because a lot of, you know, the MAPC had like 0 for some of these, and building inspector doesn't really like
0.
0 between buildings.
I was thinking like, okay, so the design standards talk about facades, basically sort of having it two. You know, a facade facing the road and a facade facing the river. If you end up with a 50-foot lot with 30 feet of side setbacks. You know, 15 on each side,
That's a 20-foot wide building.
you're making like a narrow building. That may. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
Takes good looking.
Yeah.
also,
You're not fully busy during it.
I think-
Mhm.
I think you should email DPW about their sidewalk standards. And I think you should talk to the building commissioner about his side yard recommendations.
Yeah,
And a good issue to focus on is, can you build a 12-unit mixed use for those dimensions?
yeah,
The answer, by the way,
Can you build a grocery store? No, forget it. But
That is the guy question.
yeah, the stuff that you're truly incentivizing is enough of an incentive to. I guess trade up the open space for. The use.
yeah, I mean, it's still gonna be hard to, you know, dissuade use of the underlying in a lot of circumstances, but hopefully a residential mixed use development can be financially feasible.
Yeah,
And over on F, a whole lot of things are being allowed, so F is actually many more options and
yeah,
easily financially feasible for whatever you're gonna do.
But yeah, if you, I mean. We could still change some of these things. You know, higher buildings, I don't know, maybe incentivize it even more by. Giving them an extra cup of feed. I don't know.
Yeah.
We gave them 45,
We gave him 5 feet on the,
yeah,
well, actually. We gave him 10 feet, because right now in business district, it's only 35
there you
along the
go.
river,
right, yeah,
so that's
or you
40.
get an extra story.
Maybe that makes a difference, but it's hard to run the numbers to see if
Yeah, they all look so different.
it works, because frankly, if they go higher, I don't know where they're gonna get their parking footprint. They can try.
hey, you guys send me the. Tweak it, I'll give you, I'll figure out the dates tomorrow for advertising, but we can. If we can have this next, you know,
It's gotta go to the select board in 2
Yeah.
weeks.
yeah, I'm not worried about the select board so much, because I can always bring it to them even after we advertised.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Well, I did that, you know, I put the advertisement, that one's just a formality. The select board sees it for real when it's on the
So
warrant.
we could, but this could be a hearing in either first or second meeting in February.
Isn't that the hearing we got already? No, it can't be that soon.
Anyway, I don't know, I get the first meeting in February,
Second meeting in February.
probably, yeah.
Do we need, how many weeks of notice?
Oh, you only need 14 days.
We can do that.
But getting it published and so we should, here's what I would think. I think made a lot of progress tonight. Let's see what happens with the changes. If Natalie and Bill are comfortable with it and add those changes. And then we pull a trigger. It's like I said, the worst case is that, you know, we advertise it. It's a little bit of money and, we pull it. Or we don't, you know, we don't wanna hear it. We're doing this other stuff anyway. We're having the hearings first meeting in February for the cleanup changes I showed you. So let's leave it by that.
Is there anything else on that meeting?
No projects?
None.
I don't think we do. I've got,
I mean, we can.
No, it means,
We'll get a break for once.
yeah.
that reminds me, well, okay, so we good with that plan? All right, well, thank you for the work on that, guys. That's
Can
tremendous.
we not do meeting minutes?
We already-
We already did. But okay, are we gonna meet? We had a meeting scheduled next week. Do we need it? We have nothing.
No, we don't.
Okay, so I cancel that. Oh, does anybody, the Bancroft decision, which we're still waiting for the final page, which is just gonna, or the plan, which is just gonna say, here's the ramp. Has anybody not reviewed the Bancroft decision and needs, cause I'd like to stamp it when they're done, and I have the plan page here. Did you guys all seen this?
Did you email it?
I don't know.
If you didn't, I probably didn't see it.
Actually, I'm sure I did, but
I did.
here's a hard copy. Okay, Jeff, you saw it? You saw it?
I can't recall the email specifically, but.
Okay,
It
So-
looks good to me.
you saw it, okay,
You
I'll
gave
just
it
make
to
you guys a hard copy and bring it later, and then you can just let me know. Okay, so that is just,
I do not have an email with anything.
okay, all right, then I'll, I can just give you a hard copy or you can, email, I can email it to you. But we're looking at the page, the page with the handicap accessible, spot move back up here to the top of the, lot. But I asked for one change, one additional change, which I haven't received back yet, which is gonna just, depict the ramp here a little better. They didn't use they didn't call it out enough. So that's gonna be done. That's gonna be a change. The decision's done. So I would like you guys to look at them and let me know if it's okay to stamp both of them. So, and then the last question I had, lighting standards. I've been approached by the Green Maynard lighting folks who wanna talk about lighting standards. I'm gonna meet with them Tuesday, Thursday. And I don't know what that's about. We already require dark sky compliant, so I wanna see, what they're up to, and then I'll report back on that.
This would be a change to the, like, to those.
I'm not sure. I don't know what they want exactly. So what we're doing is we're pulling lighting ordinances from other towns.
Okay.
I'll have them ready. So I wanna go over the lighting ordinance, like Cambridge has one, Concord has one, I think Stowe has one.
I mean, we have some guidance in our landscape.
Right, that's what I'm thinking, but, so
This could also just be a, town bylaw.
it could be a bylaw, or it could be, so I asked sustainability committee, wait. No, this was not sustainability committee. There was members of sustainability committee and Green Maynard
We're good where we are.
that I'm meeting with. So, what's that?
We're good where, what we have.
Well, yeah, I think so,
We'll see what they say.
but I'll see what they say.
Else.
But the question is, I'm not sure if it wants to go into single family homes, and that's a whole nother thing. So that's,
Green Maynard is not an actual committee in town,
that's correct.
so they're just not.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
I'm saying sometimes the sustainability committee members are doing stuff for Green Maynard. And they're saying it's sustainability.
Right, no, well, I'll make it
That's,
clear,
that's
right.
not okay.
Well, I think we can find if something's good, it might work for everybody, so, but I'll take a look, but I asked them to review what we have and tell us what we don't like, cause we require dark sky compliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Mark, how was it?
Long.
You picked a doozy.
It
Yeah,
is long, yeah. Let's talk about sidewalk.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to close
oh,
the meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor to close the meeting, please raise your hand.
Aye.
It's 5-0 to close the meeting.
I didn't wanna make a motion, or else I'm gonna have to resign.
What?